Welcome to the Behind the Wind podcast. I'm Lauren Lane. For 50 years now, the LSI team has dedicated themselves to the science of business development. We've seen the impact of our work and how it's evolved into economic development and now social impact work. This week, Sean is going to tell me about his experiences skiing, the crucial life or death decisions he's made while in the backcountry, and how he has set goals and objectives on the mountain and in the office. So, let's get started.
Lauren, Happy New Year. Good morning.
Good morning, Sean. Happy New Year. It's good to see you.
I'm glad we're doing this in person and you're here in Utah. How has your holiday been?
It's been good. I have been loving all the snow that we've been getting.
It's been amazing.
And I'm excited to see that we're probably going to get more soon. So
it has been an incredible ski season already.
I know.
How many times have you been out?
So I have some terrible news. I have not been yet.
What have you been doing here?
All sorts
Why would
of
you
things.
be here and not skiing?
All sorts of things. I've had family commitments and dates and all of the things. So it's truly unfortunate, but here we are.
Young 20-something with a social life. What a concept.
I know. Crazy, right?
When do you go back to D.C.?
On Sunday.
So you leave soon.
Yeah. Take the red eye. So.
Oh, you do?
Yeah. Lauren's going to be in rough shape Monday morning.
All right. Well, we'll be ready for the Monday morning podcast.
Excellent.
So this is our final episode. A few months ago, we decided we were going to end the year with a series of discussions. We set an objective for 4 recordings of various topics. So our first episode was attitude. Mm-hmm. And then we moved to lifelong learning, and then hard work. And this episode, we thought setting and achieving objectives would be a good topic as we start the new year, and really it coincides with the other 3 topics that we went through over the last few weeks. So let me start this with a question. I've been thinking a lot about this recently, how so often your identity drives your actions. You agree with that?
I would. I think that the things that you identify as major parts of your personality, I think we tend to lean towards making sure those things are still compatible with us. So if I say, yeah, I'm a skier, I'm going to continue to do things that will help me make me a better skier, or things that put me in the same image as people who think of skiers. Absolutely.
And I think that sometimes people get caught up in this concept of identity. I am, fill in the blank. I am or I'm not, right? Mm-hmm. Good and bad. I over the last several years, I really have tried to change my identity. And we've talked about this on some of those previous episodes where I became a musician and didn't have any musical background. I couldn't read music. And I feel like now that's part of my identity, that I'm a musician. Mm-hmm. So it can change even late in life, even mid or late in life. I think that goes along with this concept of lifelong learning and hard work, right? I told this story of how I completed over 100 triathlons, and I couldn't run to the end of my block. I couldn't swim. And, I really built this identity during that period that, oh my goodness, I'm an athlete, and I was competing at a high level. Do you have any identity that you have internalized over time?
I feel like one of my big identities that I've always kind of come back to, and I think that the great thing about identities and the phases of your life is it's constantly changing. Like the identity that I had when I was 6 of, little bouncing 6-year-old who loves princesses has, evolved into, well, still a little bit bouncy curly hair.
That loves princesses.
Well, I don't know about princesses, but like writing and, film and art and culture. And I think, one of my big identities is as a writer, I think.
Right. You're a writer.
Yeah.
And so Do you believe that assuming that identity drives action?
I think so.
I mean, I really think that a life hack that has helped me, and I've seen a lot of my fellow entrepreneurs, is that they take on an identity that drives their actions, right? Mm-hmm. You know, there's a lot of things that I incorporate as part of my identity, but you mentioned skiing. Skiing is the one constant in my life from the time I could walk until today that I really identify as part of my identity. I'm a skier, and a lot of my free time is spent in the mountains skiing, and I've reflected a lot over the last year. I felt like 2022, I had this benchmark ski year at a time when most of my friends have given up skiing.
Well, when you're skiing Greenland for fun, I mean, that's kind of a flex on everyone else.
I had this objective that, I don't know, it's probably started in my early 20s. This is my bucket list of places and mountains that I wanted to ski. And I've been working through that over the last 30, 40 years. And I did a lot of that in 2022. You mentioned Greenland. I spent 2 weeks in Greenland. If anybody's interested, listen to the Greenland episode. It was incredible and really life-changing for me. I've skied a lot of mountains, but I mean, I had this objective for not just a summit and descent, but also I had a vertical objective. I've skied millions of feet of vertical terrain over the last few years even. You know, I bet I've got over 2 million vertical at Park City, for example. But one of the things that I think that has driven my ability to lead this organization, to be a leader, has given me this thinking is being a skier and making decisions. I mean, a lot of times our decisions in business aren't life or death. I'm telling you, a lot of the decisions that I'm making in the backcountry with these groups that I ski with, or even if I'm skiing solo, it's life or death if you make the wrong decision. And, you know, I've lost friends in the backcountry, and we've lost a lot of skiers over the last few years. It's been really deadly in the backcountry as more people are moving to the Wasatch, have access to the backcountry. We've got a joke inside this ski group that we see a lot of people all gear and no clue, and you know, that they venture into the backcountry and have no idea what they're doing and end up in trouble. So maybe, you know, we can explore this for this episode of, you know, my history as a skier. It started out, as I said, I was a toddler. I have a mantra in my family: if you can walk, you can ski. And I can barely walk now, but I can still ski. Like I said, my mother taught me to ski when I was a toddler, 3 or 4 probably. And I fell in love with skiing, being in the mountains. As a grade schooler, in the 3rd grade, we had this program that was through the PTA in our school. And you got a season pass to a resort. If you didn't have gear, this PTA program had a gear where you could either rent or buy, or they would give you equipment. And then every Saturday, you would get on the bus and go to some resort. Usually it was Park City. That's usually where...
Ours was Brighton.
Yours was Brighton.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and so you were in the same PTA program, right?
My brothers did it. I just went up with my dad's on Saturdays. My brothers had more free time than I did. But my dad's tactic of teaching me how to ski was the first time I went skiing, they did the ski school in the morning. And then in the afternoon, my dad was like, I'm going to take you and we're going to just go ski. And I was like, great. And his thought was, I'm going to throw you in at the beginning. And we went down blacks and double blacks the first time I went skiing, and I had a really bad time.
I think there's a lot of value in that, too.
I cried the entire time. I made it. I'm alive, but a little bit of trauma the first time, too.
So I think about that today. I would never let my kids, as 7, 8-year-old kids, get on a bus and ski all day by themselves in a resort. And then, so, I mean, we would... This happened every Saturday from the time I was 8 years old until, even through college, I was still doing that, something similar to the PTA program. My parents worked all the time. My parents worked, usually they were gone before I got up in the morning, and many times they came home after I had gone to sleep at night. My parents worked Saturdays and Sundays usually. And so skiing was, it was something that during the summer, I couldn't wait for the winter. During the week, I couldn't wait for the weekends. And I would get all my stuff together, lay it out the night before. Usually my mom would pack a lunch for me, and it would be in the fridge. And
you mean you weren't spending $20 on crappy fries and the
well,
lunch?
Here's how bad it was. This was usually the typical Saturday. I lived about a mile from the bus stop, so you can imagine this little 7, 8-year-old kid with all of his gear, and I usually had a backpack that I'd leave on the bus. My mom would pack a lunch. I'd eat my lunch on the bus because I didn't want to stop to ski or to eat during the ski day. And then this group of us, we would ski all day, until, I can remember every week it was the same thing. Oh my goodness, we've got to get down to the bus before you had to be on the bus, I think, at 4:30. So we were racing. Most of if you're not a skier, if you're not from Utah, most of the resorts close at 4:00. A lot of the lifts stop spinning around 3:30. And so it was always a race from the top of the mountain to get down and get back on the bus, because if you missed the bus,
you were in toast.
There was no way home.
Get an angry phone call from your parents saying, "Where the hell are you?"
We had no cell phones, Lauren. There was no way. I probably had a dime in the backpack to make a phone call. I had no money. I had no, and all day long during school, all I thought about was skiing. I couldn't wait to get up on the hill. I think that taught me a lot about figuring stuff out, right, as a kid, and being in the mountains, and just a lot of, we probably had a group of dozen of us that would ski, and I never had lessons as a kid. We just learned to ski and navigate the mountain and figure things out at a fairly young age. So that happened from the 3rd grade until the 8th grade, that you could be in that PTA program. Walk to the bus stop, get on the bus. You had to be at the bus stop at 7. You had to be back on the bus at the resort at 4:30, and then you were usually home by 5:30 or 6. Every Saturday growing up, that was my life. And I just developed this love of the mountains. I developed this love of skiing. In middle school and high school, things got even more crazy. In about the 8th grade, then I had friends that were starting to drive. The PTA program ended, but not to worry. I would always, every week, find some way up to the resorts. I started, my life revolved around skiing as a kid, too. I would work all summer so I could buy a pass somewhere. When I was in high school, I was with this group that was out of control, and we decided we were going to start going to some other resorts. And so every Friday night after school, like 3 o'clock, everything was packed up, ready to go, and we would drive to Grand Targhee or Jack's, or we did a Telluride, and we did a lot of the Colorado resorts, and sometimes we drive, all night. I can remember driving out to Heavenly when,
gosh,
we'd drive all night. We'd sleep in the car. We had no money. We would freeze all night long in the car, dying. Ski hard all day, Saturday, Sunday. Sometimes drive home, be home for school.
Did you give your mother's ulcers from stress?
Like I said, my parents were so self-absorbed, they didn't care. I didn't have a cell phone. Their focus was just make sure you're back at school on time. And I usually was. We usually got back before Monday morning, and then early in college started racing. I got into a master's program. It really was not something that I was ever good at. It wasn't the kind of skiing that I loved. I wasn't into racing ice and gates, which is what you learn to do when you're a ski racer. And, I had been with this group of crazy, what today you'd call big mountain skiers. That was there wasn't a term for it when I was a kid, but that's what we were doing. When I was growing up in the Wasatch, we were hiking up in the mountains behind our house and skiing. And it's amazing. We didn't die of an avalanche as a kid. But today, what is known as big mountain skiing, that's what we were doing 40 years ago, 30 years ago. So to take that thinking, which is really my skiing style and mentality still today, and try to have me race gates and ice, I did okay. I won a few races, but I didn't love it. It was one of those things that I felt like it constricted my creativity. I think I would look at a mountain and say, I'm going to go ski this. I'm going to go ski that summit. I got to ski this set course that everybody else is skiing, and I've got to ski on ice, which I hate. And so I did it, and and at that time there were like my contemporaries, Bodie Miller and Ted Ligety, and some of these, Tommy Moe, some of those ski racers who were my heroes. I'm going to do that, and it just was not a good fit for me, and it was not what I loved. I wanted to be on the mountain. I wanted to be skiing powder, and I wanted to take a summit and go ski that, take an objective. I never gave up that, let's go adventure, let's go explore. I think by the time I finished college, I'd skied most of the resorts, either through ski racing or through this group of crazy friends that every weekend we were going to somewhere else to go ski and party, and it was a crazy life.
I have to ask, at our Christmas party, you graced us with one of your old ski uniforms.
1985.
Were you wearing those with your friends?
Oh my goodness. And we were the hottest on the mountain. 1985, and it still fits me. There you go. So try to get your head around that. My skiing changed a lot as I had kids. And so, I've got 5 kids and 4 daughters and a son, and I'm lucky that all of them have developed a love of skiing in the mountains like me. And I mean...
Have any of them been rebellious and been saying, I want to snowboard instead?
Yes, of course, they all did. And I said, good, go ahead, but I'm not going to pay for your pass. And I can't help you. There's nothing I can do to help you. But I did coach all of my kids. They ski at an Olympic level. They are all amazing athletes. They are incredible athletes, every one of them. And I always said to them, if they wanted to compete, I thought some of my kids would want to compete at an Olympic level or professional level. And I was lucky enough that they said, we want to be on the mountain. We want to. And even when they were growing up, big mountain skiing, today, I think if Sarah, Tess, Emma, even Sam were skiing at that level today, they would be working for Teton Gravity Research or, doing big mountain something sponsored by Red Bull. But that just wasn't a thing then. When we were doing that kind of skiing, even when, 20 plus years ago, people were like, what? You hike out of bounds? You hike up a mountain and ski down? Are you kidding me? That was like such a foreign concept. But that's how I grew up skiing. A lot of my love of skiing was, as I said, being on Jupiter Mountain and Jupiter Peak in Park City, which is very much almost a backcountry experience. Being at Powder Mountain, which is very much a backcountry experience. Hiking out of bounds, hiking just my backyard up the mountain. It's common now, but it was so foreign even, 10, 15 years ago. People weren't doing that, kind of what today they call big mountain skiing. So while I was raising kids, every Saturday, same thing. My kids knew no matter what was going on during the week, we skied on Saturday. And it was a ritual. It was a sacred time with my kids on the mountain. And it was usually just me and the kids on the mountain, until Catherine learned to ski and started skiing with us. But prior to that, it was just every Saturday, all of the kids, I'd load up all the equipment, and we'd ski and tried to make, we were in the trees and we were doing the kinds of things I did when I was a kid learning to ski, which was, I think, you learn a lot. You learn a lot just figuring that kind of stuff out, right?
I think you learn a lot about your personality, too, when you are skiing, too. You learn how you respond to stress and danger and
fear
and courage. Yeah, how to conquer fast decisions and where you need to go and
absolutely
how to pay attention to your surroundings. And you learn a lot.
And you know what's interesting is a lot of my friends who are entrepreneurs, they are mountain people. They are backcountry skiers and climbers. And I think that there is this common thread of that personality that can navigate and make decisions quickly, be a leader. You cannot be quiet and just, see, hey, we're in a dangerous avalanche area, and hey, yeah, we're gonna go ski this because it looks like it's great pitch. As my kids got older, it's been fun to see them set ski objectives. And when I was young, I had kids. The kids couldn't do a lot of these trips and adventures. Just they didn't have the skills, and I didn't have the money then as well. As a young business owner and trying to raise a young family and build this business. As they got older, and it's been fun to say, okay, these were some of my objectives. Ski was my ski bucket list from my early 20s, and even when I was in high school, I can remember having this list of objectives. So it's been fun to fulfill some of these with my kids now. And in fact, last week I was in Canada at one of my favorite places in British Columbia, on the eastern side of British Columbia, right between Alberta and British Columbia. In the Canadian Rockies, there is some of the best terrain in the world. It is so steep, 50-plus degree slopes. This terrain is just incredible. And there's a handful of places in the world that have this kind of terrain that is skiable. And this is one of them. And it was fun to be there with my daughters and see them just excel. And so it's been fun to see them implement a lot of the coaching that I've given them over the last 20 years. Some of the things that changed as I was skiing with my kids, a lot of that skiing was in the resorts. It's hard to do backcountry skiing with kids. They don't like the uphill. And so a lot of that skiing that I'm passionate about, that I'll talk about in a minute, I sort of put on hold. I did a lot of resort skiing because of the kids. It was just easier to put them all on a lift versus saying, hey, we're going to skin up this hill and ski down and listen to them complain. They'd rather be on the lift.
I know I would.
So about maybe 10 or 12 years ago, I started telemark skiing. And you know what that is?
Yeah, it's the ones where your heels come off, right?
So this is a very old tradition. They just found a telemark ski that's almost 2,000 years old in Norway that had been buried in ice.
That's crazy.
So my family heritage is Scandinavian, mostly Scandinavian. That I've got a family that came from Iceland, Greenland, where I got to go see where my family was from in Greenland, Denmark, and most of them came from Norway. At some point originated from Norway. So Telemark is a region in Norway, in Morganal, that developed this technology of telemark skiing, which, as you said, it's your heel is not...
It's not locked in.
It's not locked in, and so you bend your knee as you make turns on the mountain. And so think about doing lunges all the way down the mountain. It is so demanding. But, skiing with especially young kids, when Mary was little, I was on these little slopes with her, and it gave me a way to challenge and develop my skiing. And really how I started with this is my oldest daughter, Sarah, when she was at Utah State, her last semester there, and let me just preface this by saying Sarah is one of the most amazing skiers I've ever skied with. She's got this beautiful form. She was a classical ballerina growing up. She skis like a ballerina. She's got that incredible grace and balance, and she's so beautiful to watch. Her last semester at Utah State, she calls me and said, hey, I've decided I'm gonna enroll in a ski class. And I said, what are you talking about? She's like, well, I just, it's gonna be a hard semester for me, and I thought this would be fun. I'm like, this is a waste of your time and my money. I've got to say, this instructor saw her ski and said, okay, there's nothing I can do to help you, but we're gonna do some other fun things. So every week he had something prepared for her. So he took these kids that had never skied before and was teaching them to ski. For her, he brought in like avalanche training and backcountry training. And one of the couple of weeks, he brought in a telemark skier and taught her how to telemark. She fell in love with it. I gave her telemark skis for her birthday. I think that year she graduated, and I watched her ski down the mountain, and I could remember her coming down this run. I was on the lift watching her ski down the mountain, and it was just beautiful. And I just thought, okay, someday I'm going to learn how to telemark. When our youngest, Mary, was learning to ski, I thought, okay, this will be my chance to telemark, and developed telemarking, and which was so hard for me after all those years of alpine skiing. But so it's it's a technique that was developed 2,000 years ago in Norway, really to get around the mountain. One of the things that they did was they would take animal skins and strap the animal skins to the bottom of their skis, which would give them enough traction to go uphill. And so a lot of what is now, people think this is new technology. It's 2,000 years old. Like I said, they just found this ski that had been buried. It had animal skins on the ski, and very similar construction to, it was wood, but the design and the bindings and the shape really have not changed all that much in this concept of alpine touring and telemark skiing in the last 2,000 years. It's quite incredible.
When you mentioned that, I did a little Google search because that was very interesting. And it's true. It's a 13-year-old from the Smithsonian, a 13-year-old wooden ski from Norwegian ice.
1,300 years.
Yeah.
1,300 years old.
1,300 years old. And it's the other, so they found the other pair like 7 or 8 years ago, and
Right.
they found the other one last year.
Yes.
And it's got the bindings on it, it's got the fur on the bottom.
Right.
It's got some it's pretty much the same shape as what.
And look at
they
how
have
wide
now.
it is. I mean, people
know.
think, oh, is telemark skiing, skinny, cross-country Nordic skiing? No, it's not. It's a wide ski. It's a shaped ski. They, even back 1,300 years ago, they were shaping the skis. So also about that time, what I started doing is a lot of going back into the backcountry. The older girls and Sam were, at college, and I went back to the sort of my roots of being in the mountains and figuring this stuff out. So a lot of people, when I talk about this, even today, although it's become very popular, people are still shocked by this. So what I'll do with my telemark skis, or I also have alpine touring skis, is put skins on them. They're not made out of animal skins. Now they're made out of composite fiber that this technology really is incredible. You can be on such a steep pitch and with your skis on and just go uphill. So when I was in Greenland, we did about 10,000 vertical a day. We do 3 ascents. Each ascent was about 3,000 vertical. Skin up. So think about, you're hiking up 3,000 feet with your skis on until it became too steep. Then you take your skis off and put them on your backpack and hike the rest of the way up, what we call boot pack. But most of the ascent was with skins on your skis, hiking up with your skis, get to the top of the mountain, then ski down. And we did that. We would do 3 summits and skin up and ski down. And so much of my love and passion of the mountains and skiing really has become this backcountry skiing, because I can look at a peak and say, I'm going to go ski that. I'm going to, here's my objective. I'm going to make this summit. I'm going to ski this route. And it's given me a lot of, it really is, it requires a lot of creativity. It requires a lot of thinking on how you're going to attack that, what we call a line, a descent, and uphill too. I mean, to pick a line uphill, develop what we call a skin track up, and then a line down, ski down. It requires thought and creativity. Over the years, as I've done this backcountry skiing, especially, where it is a lot of times you're in a life or death situation where if you're in the wrong place, or you get to a place and you need to change direction, it's given me a lot of thinking and training for business and for what we do in capture, proposal development, economic development, social impact. Sometimes you'll set an objective and you get in the middle of the battle and you need to change direction, or that you need to commit and you're going to move forward. You need to be vocal, especially if your team is taking you into I've seen so many occasions where this group think is somebody saying, let's go ski this ridge, and it's not safe. And the whole team is like, yeah, let's go ski that. In the Odyssey, the Ulysses was on the boat, and you remember that part of the story where the sirens were. Mm-hmm. We've got a joke, the ski sirens. You look at a pitch and this beautiful, untracked powder, and you know that it's deadly. You know that it could kill you. And having the courage to say, no way, we're not going to do this. We're not going to do it. So I think a lot of my skiing as a child, as a young adult, and now the skiing that I really feel like in the last few years, I've had the opportunity to fulfill a lot of my objectives. But it has also given me this thinking about business and about what we do that is invaluable. A few weeks ago, we talked about, there's a lot of ways down the mountain. Right?
There's several.
And I've seen people do it gracefully, and I've seen people do it.
You've probably, I have at least kaplowed down the mountain where my skis are flying off and I'm like rolling. I feel like a snowball. And then, you got the graceful people, and there's multiple ways.
You can get down the mountain a lot of ways, right? And I think part of the game is doing it gracefully, doing it effortlessly, doing it and having fun. I was thinking, as I said, I was in Canada last week skiing this just incredible, so steep in these mountains. And that to me is euphoria. And to someone else, it's probably terrifying, right?
I would probably lean towards the terrifying part. But.
So, it's a lot of it is your attitude. A lot of it is the work that you put into these objectives. A lot of it is your identity, right? Mm-hmm. This is what I do. This is how and that you make it graceful, and you make it fun, and you make it exciting, and that you take on this identity. So I think there's a lot of lessons that whatever your identity is. As I said, I think early on in my life, somehow I took on this identity. I'm a skier, and that's what I do, and it's been a priority in my life. It's been my passion, and other than business, it really is what I do. And yet it has taught me so much about business, about life, about the mountains. It's been incredible. So as we start this new year, hopefully this episode has given listeners a lot to think about on taking an identity, even if, maybe that's not who you are today. If you start identifying with that, whatever it is, I am an athlete, I am an entrepreneur, I am a leader, and that you start you take on that identity and you reflect your actions around that identity, I think is helpful, especially in achieving your objectives. And I think setting high objectives is, even if it doesn't work out, even if you get there and you decide, this is too dangerous, this is, we're in a position where we shouldn't be, you're going to learn a lot from it, right? Okay, so this is the last of these 4 episodes. I hope it's been fun for you. It's
been a good
fun
time
having you in Utah.
Thanks. It's been fun to be on here and be here with everyone. So it's been fun.
Good. Well, have a safe trip back to D.C. I'll see you in a few weeks in D.C.
Excellent. We'll go party.
We've got big plans for the podcast this year.
We sure do. We got lots of ideas and people planned. And so if anyone is listening to this and is like, I want to be a guest on this podcast, I have things I want to discuss, just let us know. Because
Joe Rogan. Get Joe Rogan on the podcast.
Jake, I might have
Joe,
to.
I know that Joe's listening, right?
Joe, call me if you're listening to this. We got things to talk about.
All right, Lauren, thanks. This has been fun. This is the four-part series was a great idea. Thanks for coming up with this. And
Yeah, thanks, John.
great way to end 2022, start 2023.